the magnificence of God is being able to have this set we are sitting in, and you and me and the billions of people on this planet, billions of creatures and the stars and everything, that it's so huge that some of us don't. When you're limiting God and putting him in a box, or him or her or whatever in a box or whatever, we are like limiting ourselves.
And the audacity of that as well, of limitation of God who is bigger.
I think in the current situation we find ourselves in terms of leadership and governance, I think the more, if Kenyans doubted more, we might start getting somewhere. I don't know what you think.
I think so. And I think if we allowed ourselves to feel the discomfort of, as opposed to buy ourselves out of the discomfort. Because what now middle class does is, quote unquote middle class, is that we cushion ourselves, So public education is not working. Private education. Then what do they do at private education? They do those standardization. So you are consistently always feeling the pain. Triple taxation, double taxation, because you're paying for taxes for education, and then you pay again
private school owned by the same politicians who are messing up.
And so if we don't ask, we don't want to ask questions, and we don't want to live with the discomfort so that we can change issues. It's like, I don't have time for this. And that's
I don't
why
like politics.
Politics likes you, whether you like it or not.
No, I think they are
politics likes
realizing
you.
that. I'm in some groups with some serious Kenyans, some of them who work for government, and the conversations there are like, because every day there's a new tax or new proposed tax. And of course it's targeting the middle class who have salaries, the salaried. So nasema wakati wao umefika. You know?
But it's going to be it's a painful reckoning. It's a very painful reckoning. So I feel like we went on a detour.
It's okay. I mean, part of, because it's your story.
Yes.
And this story is important because it then influences the work that you do. So if you can pivot back to Msingi Trust, how did it come? So you worked at Nairobi Chapel for about 7 years. You're fired. You're fired.
No, it is called transitioned.
You transitioned.
In Christian terms, you were transitioned.
Because if you talk about, for example, Samson dying in the temple as once his hair grows back and brings down the temple over the Philistines, but also dies, he fulfilled his purpose. So even maybe the firing was meant to,
and it was for
real,
and that's why I didn't fight it, because I knew I needed to leave that place, even though it was not in my time. I knew by December latest I would be out of that space. They kickstarted the process.
Maybe God just decided you're procrastinating too much. Move on.
And you know, I just, over the weekend, I was at Junction, and I met one of the leaders who, in passing, and he did not know it. He said, Carol, your fire has died. Because now when you have a salary, nothing is nini. Because they remember me when I came in the first year. I was always asking, why are you, why? My whys died. And this is also a thing for me, is that when I stop asking why, I am very, very, very scared about myself. Because I am a questioner. I am a born questioner. I remember it so well. Like I was going down somewhere. He was coming up. He was like, and Carol, your fire has died. You are no longer the very fiery, vibrant, questioning person I knew when you came here. And then he left. He had absolutely no recollection of that. I remember every single word he said, because it was true. I had become comfortable, and I needed something that shakes me out. And so
you had to get out of your comfort zone.
I needed to get out of it and birth this. And so, and Juicy, when I met him, he told me, yeah, you cannot cage a lion. He told me that. It's
that's a
like,
powerful.
yes, you are a lion that cannot be caged. Because I told him what he said, and then he was like, yeah, you cannot cage a lion because a lion has to roar. You have to explore. You can, yeah. And so I am grateful, Pastor Kabibi Asante, for those words of, like, when you say things without, and this is also the power of words and leaders is those words can build and can break. There's some words that have broken me. When I began starting singing and someone said, this thing will never go anywhere, versus someone who says, you cannot cage a lion. Those two different impact, different impact of words from leaders who are meant to be building you. And so Msingi had always, even in the pamphlet of when I joined the leadership development program, I saw that I needed to, one of my goals was to start an organization that brings these two worlds that I love, of justice, of justice and faith. Because I am an activist at heart. And when I'm in my activist spaces, when I'm around activists, I am so happy. So happy. I'm like, this is home.
You don't have to explain yourself.
You don't have to explain yourself. I don't have to. I'm like, yes, this is horrible. And we are all agreeing it's horrible. And then when I am in the faith space, I'm also exploring God. I'm exploring faith, how that how it changes people, the capacity. I'm like, yeah, I like this agency that, but then they are always so different. And so sometimes I feel like I never belong fully in those two worlds.
Which is I mean, part of my losing my religion would be that the space, the original NGO ideally is the Catholic Church or the church in terms of comforting the afflicted, in terms of social justice, and then furthering that. I mean, even here, the original schools and hospitals in Kenya, even during colonialism, were built by the church. When did we get to the point where now you're feeling discomfort being in the, like this, you cannot reconcile the two, social justice or justice and the church?
Because on our Msingi page, there's a question that Msingi comes from Psalms 89:14. Justice and righteousness is the foundation of God's throne. And so justice is at the core of God's kingdom. And so you cannot just be preaching about righteousness and nothing about justice. If you look at some of the greats, we have Martin Luther King. There's Harriet Tubman was a great woman of faith. There's so many.
Both Martin Luthers, yeah?
Yes, even the one for 95 Theses, that one for who now wanted people to stop paying indulgences to the Catholic Church. And so I see such a disservice when every time you go to church, nothing about justice is spoken. There's absolutely so if justice and righteousness is the foundation of God's throne, of God's kingdom, and righteousness is what we are consistently building, and justice is over here, means this is kaput. And so this is why you're feeling
the Pharisees have won.
Yeah. And this is why you're feeling that
because that's self-righteousness.
Yes.
Then it's what Jesus came to fight.
So if this is what is meant to bring up so that it's balanced, then this justice, the justice arm that is not preached, is giving you that discomfort. If things are going wrong in this country, because we are 80% whatever Christian, who is doing the wrong? It is us.
Christians.
Yeah. And so for me, Msingi is to centralize justice within faith spaces.
So Msingi being foundation.
Yes.
So in Swahili, of course, the foundation of God's throne, so the Msingi.
Yes, the Msingi of it is about justice. And so because you all done the work of righteousness a lot, I'll leave that to you. Let me build the justice arm. And so for me, the vision is a Kenyan church pursuing justice for all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a huge,
yes.
Especially today.
Yes.
It's a huge.
So, and the all is really all. It's not this does not, the all,
Not just Christians.
yes, it's for the queer Kenyans, it's for the left out, it's for everybody. Yeah. And so I started Msingi because to bridge that gap.
Was it immediately after you
Msingi
left?
had actually sort of been born even before. Like I remember in January already thinking about it. So January, February, March. So I was told to leave in June. June. And then July I went to Uganda to cry in my friend's house. I cried for a month.
Wow.
I was fed. Thank you, Deo and Jennifer. I was fed. And then in August I came and we started. And so in August we turned 6 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So mainstreaming justice is and then also within the justice space, showing activists that the church can be an ally in fighting justice. And this is why. Because they are actually commanded to do justice. Micah 6:8 says, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly in your God. Everywhere you see righteousness in the Bible, justice is somewhere there. And it's not justice for just... Not ile wanasemanga ya justification for faith and all. It's actual justice. It's about the oppressed. It's about the blind. It's the widows. It's the socially disadvantaged. All of that. We are meant to spend
That's
ourselves.
the story of Jesus.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have forgotten about
Yes.
I mean, his ministry.
Yes. Yeah. So we are meant to spend ourselves on behalf of the poor. And so, and also, really, that money... go into temples, and when they're not doing the right thing, you just
Whip them.
Yeah, whip people into order. And so that is it.
But the guy in charge of the country is the one who's going to trade in the church. What do you do?
Yeah, because we've been bought. We are no longer. We are the people who are now in charge of the coffers. Yeah. And also we've lost the radical nature of what the gospel is about. It's about when we say Jesus is Lord. Do you know what we are saying? The full complete sentence is that Caesar is not. Caesar is a Roman empire. So we are saying no to empire and talking to this subversive way of being where it's not about power and authority. It's about serving people. Yet for us, we are in bed with empire. We are feeding empire. We are the ones who... And so if we were to say the parable and even the way we are doing theologies and explaining ourselves so that we fit the status quo, yet parables are against status quo. And so
Jesus was against the status quo.
Very much. And so all of those parables you hear, the lost sheep, the lost all of that, the lost, the parable of the widow, it's all against the powers that be. Yet we read them in a spiritual sense and see nothing after that. But the work now I am doing with Msingi is working. It's very... it's theological in terms of the content, but it's also very lived experience of how can we center justice in the work that we're doing.
Give us a typical day. What kind of work?
A typical day. The typical day is now very strange because in 2017 when it started, it was trainings, a lot of like sitting around the book. I've done book studies with HRDs and faith leaders. And one of the things I quickly learned is that there is a huge gap. And this is now something I want to now call out the activists, is that we've forgotten that church leaders are core to community. And so when I call them and we talk about justice, they are very lost. Yeah. But also they do not understand that that justice is core to their faith. And so we have been doing a lot of teaching, sitting, opening scriptures, the Bible. And
so you sit with faith leaders.
Faith leaders and
Pastors,
activists together. It's always faith leaders and activists. And the last class we did of church and community mobilization process, when he started it, it was very, very tough because activists will tell the church leaders, you're messing up. Church leaders do not want to be told.
Right now, we bash church and we bash the media.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They do not want to be told. But after a while, we sit together and we're like, we can actually work together because there's more that...
We have more in common.
Yes. And we are serving the community. And so if we are serving the community, it helps all of us. If Pastor X knows about the Constitution and their rights and all of that, and you also know that there's someone who can come and offer like solace to a bereaved family, who can... The pastors are still very core people in community. And so imagine a pastor who's preaching justice. Your work is done. Yeah? Your work is done.
And you'll no longer be an activist.
Yes.
I can go on holiday somewhere and enjoy the money from the donors.
Yes.
Of course, there's no money. People think we have a lot of money.
And so imagine if all the pastors in Kenya knew about justice, and you don't even need to quote. So I remember there's a time we did Freedom Sunday with some of the guys from Mathare Justice Center. And I don't know if any of you know JJ. He came to me and said, Karo, kumbe hii kitu, the Bible, it is so much full of justice, more than these things we say. Yeah? You know that thing? It's like, if we read this, and of course the Bible is controversial, but there...
No, it's true. It's true about, because context is the ministry of Jesus. And if you look at where the Jews were, they were colonized by the Romans.
By Rome, yes.
And when they talk about Messiah, the Messiah was someone to come and liberate them from that colonialization. Yes. So it's injustice. They were suffering injustice.
Yes.
And they were looking for justice. And the Messiah was then supposed to help them get justice. So that's why I guess it's full of...
And yet, the Messiah that they were looking for is not the Messiah that came, because they were looking for one that comes and fights.
A warrior.
In the name against Caesar. But this one was now to the fringes, taking care of those in the margins, kabisa. And so it is sitting. So trainings we do podcasts on justice and faith and injustices. We've I used to write articles. I stopped. I was too tired. Facebook lives on things that were happening. So if you go to Amsingi page, there's quite a number of Facebook lives.
I think I followed one of those.
Yeah. So we've in the podcast as well. And so we recently also, we did all of this. I did most of this work by myself for 5 years. And I recently got staff less than a year ago. And so we are doing work on faith and feminism. So I'm consistently working to activate or advocate for a just way of living for all. Yeah. And so feminism, we are consistently talking about feminism, black liberation theology, which is a no-no in this country. We are talking about what does the church's role in injustice in this country. Ndongo Land Report is something I would love for us to explore further. So conversations so we work in 3 ways: connections, conversations, and content. Connections. So we create content. We've trained. We've done faith-rooted organizing. We've done change makers. We've done church and community mobilization. We've done trauma healing. So all of this, bringing faith leaders into places of pain where the community is really in pain, and also their own pain, and also showing them their agency in the work of the community. Because most of the times when you call leaders, there's also a pedestal they've put themselves, and so they cannot sit around with quote unquote normal people.
Ordinary people.
Yes.
The word I hate.
Yes.
Ordinary Kenyans.
The ordinary Kenyans.
Who are the extraordinary
Yes,
Kenyans?
I'm like, who's the Monanchi? And so is that, how can we are sitting together around the table discussing the matters of this country, discussing and also showing you that it is your responsibility as a faith leader to care about justice. Yeah, it is. And so we just now also started an office that has a community library. I'm back to Dagoretti.
Dagoretti.
Yes, just over here. Because
where exactly in Dagoretti?
Gashwi. Opposite Ruthimetu Mixed.
Okay.
The National
You went back to the
Volleyball
primary school?
Opposite
And
the opposite, not at my primary school. My primary school is just down there, but we are opposite the boys high school. And I knew I had to go back there because, again, in Dagoretti, especially around that area, there's absolutely no social amenities. There are no social projects, no social programs. And so I hope that place becomes the hub from where social change starts to happen within the Dagoretti community.
Are you connected with KJ, your MP?
No. And those are the kind of people I want to connect with them 2 years later.
Because I was listening to the governor of Nairobi, Sakaja, was on Spice FM, I think last week but one. And he kept mentioning Dagoretti South, and I was like, what is? Then I remembered they are very good friends with KJ. There are no programs that they are running.
There's up to a place where programs reach. So you see Precious Blood at Equity. When you figure that corner, that's the end of any development.
So that's Kawangware.
Yes. So when you go to the other Odhero, Rudhimeto, Kerigo, Motoine, are some of the things.
I live in Motoine.
Yes, and you live in Motoine, and you know what I'm talking about. Social amenities there, public, like non-existent. There's nothing for young people to do. There's no social mobility. Land is becoming a scarce resource. Alcoholism, betting, thugs, it's a lot. It's a lot of things that are going on. Yeah.
It's so you've given yourself quite a job, let me say.
Yeah.
Anjali kutuma, that's what activism like. Kwani hauna kazi ya kufanya?
Sina kazi ya kufanya yaki. When I told my mom that I have stopped work, I will start, she was very petrified. Because where will you find money to eat? I think this work, and I know for sure, Mutemi, it has to come from it comes from within. You cannot be paid enough to do this job. Yeah, it's mi nasema ni Mungu amenituma. Let me blame it on God. I know I'm called for this work. I know I'm strengthened for this work. I see the gifts that I have for this work. This country sends me as well. Yeah, the love I have for this country also sends me. I know Kenya is great. We are a great people. We've survived so many hard things that should undo us at the seams. And sometimes we feel like we're just teetering on the end of destruction. But there's something still possible about this country. I think the work that I do, also my niece's grandchildren are the ones I'm doing this work for. Yeah.
Your niece's grandchildren.
Yes.
So you're planting a tree or a forest for the grandchildren of your nieces.
Yes. My niece's grandchildren are the ones I'm doing this work for, because I know I will see some fruit now, but the real fruit I want them to say my great-great-grandmother fought for this space. You know how we remember Muthoni Nyanjiru, how we remember Mekatilili, we remember Wangari Maathai.
You want us to, those kids to remember Ndutanganga Okaronganga.
Yes,
those
yes,
days.
yes.
And we read you in history.
Yes, that we and not because of being in history's sake, but because I believed. And you see, the same way, the words that our teachers, the positive words that our teachers planted in us. Imagine if we planted positive places of hope. Yeah. And so it's like she believed so much in us that she created a space where we can explore who we are as a people. And this is why I think creating spaces for imagination, for growth, for rest as well, that we are not always running.
We were not born to work.
It's like, hey guys.
Capitalism. You know?
Yeah, capitalism. Like every single day, 24/7. Yeah? It's not real. Like we find resting as a crime. We feel like we are...
People say we rest when you're 6 feet under.
Nah, guys. No, no, that's not it. And so for me, I do this for them. And for the legacy of that Black women especially. Black women can. And if you look at my Instagram and my Facebook, is from Mukireti to the world. Mukireti is very nondescript. It is very, like, it is we are actually, our stage yetu ya gari inaitwa Caravat. We are named after a calvert. But,
typical
yes,
Kenyan.
Yes, you can come from a place and impact the world as well. Yeah. But also that you don't have to always live with the sets of truths that you've been given. You can question realities. You can question society. You can question faith. You can question the structures of government. You can shed off your privileges, especially for people who are born in privilege. You can serve and be full. And for the pursuit of everyone having a chance at being fully human, you're not more deserving of being human than someone else. Because I think that's also the other thing with Kenya, is that I find that we believe that some are more deserving of humanity than others.
And that's our colonial legacy.
Yeah.
That the colonialism dehumanizes and continues to dehumanize us, and then we dehumanize other people.
Yes.
And I guess when you go back to the question I was asking, Jano, is that why do Kenyans like showing off, big cars, showing off their kids while they're still traumatizing those kids?
Yeah.
Because if you look at a lot of the people whose parents are so outward public facing, you would find, I grew up, my parents divorced when I was in class 3, so I lived with uncles and aunties, and you saw some families where when you're in public, you're this couple that is, perfect.
Yes.
But in the house, you're fighting every day.
It's a fight.
But you maintain those appearances when you're with family, when you're with friends, and I think that is so disturbing for kids.
But isn't that also how we do as Kenya?
Yeah.
When we are fighting KOT against anyone else in Kenya, and even when you look at the very, very, very
when you're fighting South Africans and Nigerians, but you cannot fight our own politicians.
Yes. And even the filters on Twitter, now known
Instagram,
as X, of who we are as a country. Yet the reality of poverty and extreme lack. And those are the things that I don't like. It shouldn't. There's an activist called Andre Henry who has a t-shirt says it doesn't have to be this way. I think we are so used to things being this way that someone asking why it is this way becomes the misnomer.
And you're fought.
Yes.
You're fought by fellow sufferers or hustlers.
Yes.
For daring to question our president or our MP or our MCA. Who are you to question?
Yeah. And then also I think as you're fighting that, what injustice and all of this brokenness, what it does for us as human beings, it denies us the chance to be good people. Yeah. So because unjust systems, so now what do? You're consistently fighting someone just to get that one thing. Yet I believe in our inherent goodness as people. And injustice robs us of our utu. Yeah. It robs us of our ability to thrive. Yeah. It robs us. I know of a cousin of mine who was such a great painter, but now he can't paint.
He can't paint because he had to survive.
Yes.
And maybe he couldn't sell paintings that time.
Yeah. Poverty is so dehumanizing. Yeah. I shared my dehumanizing story of poverty. Yet I'm sure mine is not the worst. Yeah. I was doing that in a good school. But imagine how many other people are we are walking dehumanized. We are not walking standing tall because our dignity is lost every day. We are fighting for our dignity every day, and yet we have the ability to be dignified. And maybe this is what development is dignity. Like when you look at the developed, quote unquote, developed nations, is that everyone has dignity.
Yeah. Even those who are broke.
Yes.
Because at least something like a house with a couch and a refrigerator and food and a TV is a basic provision. Like whether you have a job or not, you are assured. For example, in the Scandinavian countries, you will not sleep in the streets. Your kids will go to school.
Yes.
If you get sick, you'll be treated. We had this platform where we were pushing Kigame last year for the presidents, and that's the conversation you are having. Like, how do you dignify the person? Utu. Rather than, how do you speak about development of developing the person rather than developing roads, and which are okay, the infrastructure is okay. But if there are people who can't meet the basic needs, then what development are you talking about?
Yeah. Development for who? Like, beautiful picture is Ngara. Who are those roads for? Yeah. Because when from Thika Road, as we enter into Ngara, majority of the people are walking because that space, yet there's no walkways. So whose road is it for? Yeah. To who is this Nairobi created for? And who does it lock in? Who has the right of way in this city? And so the conversation about seeing ourselves as part of that, my humanity is tied to your humanity. And so if your humanity is broken, then my humanity is of course broken. Yet we've failed to see that because capitalism has us in a chokehold. Mara, you have to show off. Mara, you have to keep up with neighbor X who bought sijui what, and you can't be defeated. Yet we rarely see each other.
When you speak about when you were in primary school and there was that community that took care of you even after you finish high school,
yes,
and you're going to university abroad, and they fundraise for you.
Yes.
I mean, that's community.
Yes.
So that's still with us.
It is.
So this uncaring Kenya, because if you talk about your community in the village, in the city, village in the city.
A village in the city.
In the city.
Yes.
And yet you can see that connection whereby, whether you call it shared poverty. And I'm asking this because when part of organizing when you're building movements, you talk about helping people develop grievances.
Yes.
So when you're deprived, but everybody around you is deprived, then you see that's the norm.
Yeah.
Like you can't imagine a different world until you travel to St. George's High School.
Hey,
Then you
and then
realize,
you're like, hiya. Hey.
yeah. How do we get our people to see that they pay taxes, they deserve these things, that they don't have to live in dignity and depravity?
I think it's in the stories we tell. Yeah. A story, and allowing, like envisioning what kind of futures are we, even presents, are we envisioning? Yeah. The stories we tell that inspire hope, and also that you can actually do this. And this is why people like me and you are very important, because then you have, like, and I am not where I want to be. The vision is still like over here. Yeah. But I want us to come alongside with me as I'm living my dream, to show you that you can also live your dream. Yeah. So we inspire by what we see. Sometimes there are people who need to see. And so by you being there, by you fighting, because you've gone and you've seen. So come back and fight. Don't go and just stay where you've seen. Come and show.
Or put up a wall with an electric fence
Yes.
and keep everybody out.
Yes. And so when Martin Luther King Jr. was saying, I have a dream, right? It was not just his dream. He was giving people the ability to dream. Sometimes we need permission to dream. As kids who needed permission to go to the toilet, we are still not out of the master's, master's chokehold. Sometimes we need to be given permission to dream. And we are given permission to dream when we see a dream. The dreams that we are seeing right now is just of politicians and wash guys. But what about guys who really build their communities? Yeah.
And we are not saying that it's wrong to have a big car or a big house, but you're like, there should be a bare minimum, isn't it? Like, what is your dream? If you are to imagine how dignity will look like for Kenya, like what is a bare minimum every Kenyan should have to be in a place of dignity? What would be the Kenyan dream?
The Kenyan dream, I think, when I close my eyes, and the image that comes to mind is my dad. Yeah, my dad has worked for the same Hindi for all my life. He's still there.
He's still working.
And what they did when he turned 50, they put him on contract. And so
before that, he was a casual throughout.
No, he was employed.
Okay.
And then they just
they put him now on contract.
So that then he does not.
They can terminate it anytime.
Yes, yeah. But then I see him, he walks so far to go to work still. Yeah. And I wanted to personalize it because poverty is still here with us. It's not far. It's how do we ensure that now for all these guys to go to work? Yeah. When you ask me what the dream was, I looked at the people who go to work very early in the morning.
They leave their houses at 4 a.m. in the morning.
They walk for 2-3 hours to go, and then they work for a very, very minimal salary. Stay there the whole day under harsh conditions. Then take
another 3 hours.
Take another 3 hours walking back home. And we've made that to be normal.
We've actually even built pavements for them to walk. Yeah, and it's a Kenyatta family business that builds those pavements. Yeah. Because we are a walking nation.
We are a walking nation, yet we are a nation with bad feet because we've been made to walk for so long hours without any sense of care. And so for me, my dream is that those men, and for sometimes they tell us as feminists, we don't think about men. But for me, for real, my dream is for the men who go to industrial area, because that has always, my dad used to work in industrial area for so long. For the men who go to Inda and to all of those spaces, for them to have fair wages. Yeah. Because if Inda is fixed, then all those other industries, somehow in my head, it's fixed. My dream is for churches to be centers of justice, because those people in industries are in our churches, in our temples, in our mosques.
They give their offering on Sunday.
Yes.
Or pay tithe.
Yes. So imagine if in those spaces where they bring this money, if we told them, pursue justice. Is this money, are we robbing the poor? Yeah. My dream is dignity, so that you have, for ease, man, we are not beasts of burden. Like, I walk around and you look at faces of men and women, they're just
zombies.
Yes, they're tired. We are tired. So I dream of ease, dignity, justice, and joy in labor. Because I think there's joy in doing work that shows you fruit. You can't be working for 40 years and you don't have a pension. Nothing to show for it. Yet your mhindi is earning.
He's a multi-billionaire.
He's earning so much more on your sweat, on your labor. Yeah, so those are my dreams.
And that's and thanks for sharing that. And that's I think a conversation of the last 400 years. And that's why I find cognitive dissonance with Christianity. So slavery, which Christians supported.
Yes.
That then, which is basically, it's around labor. So capitalism is built on exploitation of cheap labor.
Yes.
Initially free labor with slavery. Then when that became unpalatable to the majority, then we come to wage slavery, which is the work that you're describing, work that does not dignify you, does not pay your bills, cannot even afford you transport to and from work. You have to walk those long distances. But I think for me also is the fact that we had a government, the last regime, although the current is just a continuation, that rather than build a light rail that would allow your father to pay 20 bob from Kangemi to industrial area and 20 bob in the evening, they'd rather build pavements where he can walk. And that also, indignity, you know.
And also build the expressway. So that
build the expressway so that the diplomats in Gili don't see the mess that is in Nairobi.
The mess is underneath, you know. It's, we hide our shame. We really, really know how to hide it. And you know what happens when things are hidden? One day they'll come out.
They'll explode.
And it will explode. Because we cannot continue living the way we are doing. You know? We cannot. The gap between the rich and the poor in this country is so big. I remember when there was COVID, when we were doing, with my friends, we were doing COVID response, and we were in a Naivas somewhere. There's a woman who was not part of what we were doing, but then she pulled me aside and said, please come and come, let me talk to you. And so asked me to please buy for her unga. And so I went and asked, because that was not part of the core budget. So I asked, and it was like, there's points, there's Naivas points from what we've accumulated buying for people things. Can I buy for this? And then as we were on the queue, she said that her dream is to one day go to the supermarket and fill a trolley.
which some of us do unconsciously.
Yes. For her, her dream, she asked, siku moja nitaiona nikifanya kitu kama hii. Will I ever see myself one day with my own money feeling a trolley instead of just picking one thing? So don't think people do not see.
So you're talking about dignity. You're not talking about taking from the rich to whatever. You're talking about having a baseline in terms of dignity.
I think we can take from the rich because they are taking from us.
Yeah.
Really? For
No,
real?
what I meant was, like, if you have a baseline, for example, what you say, these people who are going to work in this industrial area, producing wealth for the country, need to be dignified.
Yes.
Need to be able to afford transport.
Yes.
They need to maybe live in a house that dignifies them. For me, it's, let's say, everybody should have a bare minimum of a 2-bedroom apartment that has everything.
Yeah.
Bedroom for the kids, bedroom for the parents. There's a sitting room, there's a kitchen, there's a toilet, there's water, there's electricity, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You talk about defining the Kenyan dream. Then you can afford to go to work, get dignified work that pays you enough money to be able to take care of your needs and the needs of your kids.
Yeah.
So if you need to take care from the rich,
as well. Gives you leisure as well, because like when was the last time we played just for right? There's no parks, the parks that are in our communities are stolen.
They've been grabbed.
They've been grabbed.
And malls have been built in them or something.
And so for me, and why I'm saying we need, and this is why, like, for me, justice from a biblical perspective also makes sense, because you see, there's the year of Jubilee. What happens was every 6 years you left the land to rest, and so you are free. But also there was so the rhythms and systems of grace, every 6 days you rest on a Monday, the others you let the land rest, but every 49th year is that you returned everything, even land that had, if you had loaned land and all of that, is that it was returned to the original owner, so that then nobody over accumulated land. Imagine if we just did that. You know,
and you know the thing, it's like a chicken and egg situation.
Yes.
And if we had, and this is not utopian. 20, 30 years ago, we were there as a country whereby even Biwott was a billionaire.
Yes.
His kids used to go to Eldoret Municipality School, which is a public school, but the County Council of Eldoret. There were no international schools then, or if there were very few. They were for the expatriates and that kind of thing. And if we had an education system that works, that equalizes every school, everybody can access school, can access healthcare, then we would not need to accumulate the way we are.
Yes.
Or steal from the, big corrupt steal so that you can have more to take our kids to international schools or buy 4x4s. Now helicopters and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that we've made corruption to be so this thing, yet we are not saying what it actually means to be corrupt, is that you're stealing from hospitals, you're stealing from roads, you're killing people. You know, corruption is murder. And because things like education universalizes us all, is that you do not want, so you rob from education so that you're always better. Yeah. So, and
you see how this is reflected in the visiting.
Yes.
It's the same, just a blown up version of it.
Yeah. So you're always consistently stealing to make yourself better than the ones you're stealing from. Yeah. So that then you're always lording yourself over them. And creating, and this bubble this always, and one of my great hopes for this work is that I keep saying Rome ended. Yeah? All these kingdoms, all these empires, even Britain will fall. You know? Empires fall. And when it falls with a third.
But they don't last more than 200 years.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yes. So empires fall. But in the meantime, we are in these empires and we are struggling, but they fall because this is not right. It doesn't have to be this way. Yeah.
And it's so powerful and heavy, and I really connect with this because it's rare to find someone I can have this conversation with from an activist's perspective.
Yeah.
And you're always on social media being asked, kwani, the question I ask, una kazi ya kufanya?
Yeah.
Nani alikutuma? Is your mother now happy with what you're doing, or is she still telling you to get a job?
No, she now knew. She eventually knew what I do. Just last year when we did
my dad keeps asking, na unafanyanga nini?
When we did the 5th year anniversary of Msingi, that's when she learned what I do. Finally, she's like, and then she kept saying, na nilikuwa ninamwambia aache kufanya hii kazi. She's very open that she was like, Carol, you're wasting your time. But I think they don't understand it, but they're like, we support you. We support what you're doing, even though we don't know what it is, but there is support and there's an acceptance that one way or another they give birth to a kichwa ngumu, which is okay. Yeah.
And how can Kenyans, now looking into the future, let me ask this in two parts. So how can activists like you and I and the others we work with offer each other solidarity? Because I think there's a thing about activists being lone rangers,
yes,
and suffering on their own, not having a social support structure. So that's one. And then what can Kenyans do to also make this work?
I think we are all active citizens. Let me start from the back, that activism is not a preserve of a few. It's not for the called out ones, because we are citizens of this country. So it's our responsibility. And so in your sphere of influence, do what you need to do there. And then maybe you don't need to get a Mutemi to come and bail and shout so that it's done. So active responsibility in the place where you are and doing your all. Yeah.
So every Kenyan should be an activist.
Every Kenyan.
Or is an
Yes. Ideally you are. Yeah. Because you're fighting for yourself. Also have a fight in you. Yeah. Don't just accept things. Yeah. Let's fight. Let's fight when things are going wrong and celebrate when things are going right. Yeah. So I'll start from there. But the other one is solidarity. One of the things that I have learned in the 6 years of Msingi is the importance of solidarity. Just showing up for things. When a comrade is arrested, go. You might not even be doing anything. Just chill outside Central Police Station or wherever. Just go. When they are having an event, you just come. Solidarity is so important because it shows we're in this struggle together. And I think at the beginning, I learned so much about, and the solidarity does not need to have so much. I remember there's a time in one of the WhatsApp groups where people were fundraising by saying, ile lunch hautakula leo, patiana hiyo so. Right? A 50 bob here, 100 bob here. That solidarity is so important.
So from both activists and Kenyans?
Yes. I have seen the importance of standing alongside someone who's on the trenches, and it makes a difference. But also when you pray for them. If you're the praying kind, you never some of these things, and visit and say hi and hang out. I promise people are not always talking the revolution. I've hung out with Mutemi. He's not always talking about the revolution, but somehow it will come in. But invite people into normal spaces so that then you create friendships. But I think the biggest one is solidarity, but also being an active citizen yourself. Because I promise you, I say that it would be really cool. I'm sure, Mutemi, you agree. Imagine if you had to go to the coast for 2-3 weeks with no crisis. Yeah?
Yeah, it would be, everything is working.
Yes.
No need for activists.
No need for activism. The reason activists are there is because things are not working. So imagine, like, if we are saying we are being paid for the job, now ensure that there's this work is happening without us, and then we'll go.
I keep telling people, like, if government did its work, there'll be no NGOs, there'll be no activists.
Yes.
Like, I remember in 2013, being Kikuyu, being critical of Uhuru Kenyatta, and then, of course, my family was telling me I'm selling out the community and that kind of thing. And I'm like, you guys, this guy made promises. You voted for him because he made promises to you. Hold him to account.
Yes.
Then I won't have a job.
Yes.
Let him fulfill the promises he made to you.
Yeah.
And I think we can say the same thing with the Kikuyus who voted for Ruto. Just hold him to account.
And then let him deliver. Because you see, the thing is, and this is what people don't understand, if he delivers, it's for the good of us all. Yeah? If all those promises that are on paper actually come to pass,
the plan,
if that plan works, then we are good. Yeah? And so if it doesn't work, then we are in problems.
All of us. Even those who voted for
and so it is to our advantage, sisi wote, that it works. And so if it doesn't work, we have to ensure it works in one way or another.
That I was like the group I was telling you about. So this is how it was being brought home. So these guys are like, I've been taking care of four guys from my village, my relatives and all that. And I've told 2 to leave because now I can't afford to.
Yeah.
So now kimeanza kuwaramba. You can use that one. Like it's manifesting. So I cannot even contribute to funeral groups and education groups and, like as a middle class person. Because now they've hit my salary, my pay slip. So that money has to come from somewhere. And if I was giving my brothers support, my sister support, my parents support, then I cannot support them anymore.
Yeah. And now imagine if public utilities worked, you would not need to be supporting your people.
Very true.
Yeah. And this is the disconnect that I don't. And even sometimes when you see this, like musicians, artists, all of those, when it's time. And sometimes I say this and I'm like, okay, just 4 months ago, I asked for a harambe for my mother. But like, imagine if we didn't need to fundraise for medicals because the hospitals were working, right? And you went in, your operation came in and everything worked. So if musicians lobbied before they needed the service, then utakuwa mgonjwa, we would not even need to know. You just go to hospital, you're treated because the hospital.
I think France sends you on a holiday actually after, like if you get sick and you have you need to recover, you've had surgery. Yeah, they will send you to Mombasa to go and recover in some
dignity. I think the fight for social justice is the fight for dignity. Dignity is for all. Yeah, it is for all. I don't deserve a more dignified life than this person X because of circumstances of life. We all are entitled to dignity.
And to people of faith, on that note, with the story of Jesus Christ, I consider Jesus an activist.
Yes.
When I have alterations with Christians, I tell them, my mentor is Jesus Christ because he was an activist. And they're like, Jesus was not an activist. And then a whole conversation starts.
Surely,
what would you say to Kenyans
read your Bibles
and the Christians?
Read your Bible. Like we've just finished Isaiah, almost finishing Isaiah, and it's central. The prophets in the scriptures were not about about prophesying about the end times. They were against empires and powers and tyrannies of people who are abusing power. Yeah. For me, I'm like, read your scriptures and don't make them say things that you want. Like, one of the most interesting things as we were reading through Isaiah is I was realizing what is that famous verse in this chapter. It was a very, so like the one we just did yesterday was arise and shine for your light has come. And then so that is the one we know. Everything after that is about just how justice will stand at the corner because you've decided to be unjust. You know? So you cherry pick the phrases that you want that says nothing out of context. Yeah?
Because that's a whole chapter. That verse is within a whole chapter.
It is within a whole chapter that's speaking about injustice and justice and the role of justice. So don't cherry pick. Read your script. So for them, I'm like, for Christians, I'm like, open it, read it, see how much justice is in that space.
I usually tell people to read John 3:17. You know, most of them have never read
they read the 16.
Just read the 16.
Yes.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son.
Yeah.
But then 17 qualifies it, you know. And most people, and whoever is watching this podcast, please go and read. I'm not going to say what it says.
Yes.
Go read for yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then look also where everywhere you see righteousness, and this is what I say, everywhere you see righteousness, justice is around the corner. Is in a chapter, in a verse before or after that. Righteousness always walks alongside justice. Yet nowadays we are, righteousness has done a Kipchoge, round and round and round. And justice is over here, trailing far behind. Yeah.
And to young Kenyans, activists, ordinary Kenyans, Kenyans who are losing hope, what would you be a message as Musingi? And you know, what would be a message to them?
Is that this is your inheritance. You have to fight for it. Yeah. You cannot lose hope. You cannot afford to lose hope. Yeah. There is the reason that people are here is because this is a gem. We have a good thing here. Fight for it. And don't let other people's stories or ideas of who you are be the thing that especially those ones who want to demean you. Don't let those ideas be the things you run with. Yeah, you have agency and you have a gift that we never had. We all have a gift. So run with it. Run with this country. It's yours. You're 75% of this country. Like, why are you allowing 35% of all people spoil things for you?
So take ownership.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carol. This is so powerful. I hope, I know time does not hurry, but I hope we'll have a chance to have another conversation.
Asante.
Thank you so much for what you're doing,
Thank
the role modeling that you're doing, the leadership that you're providing, and your sense of Utu, and modeling that also. And let's hope we can all keep dignifying each other.
Yeah.
And build a country that works for all of us.
Yeah, we have no choice. This is all we have. Yeah, there's no plan B. This is it.
Sisi ndio tuko.
Sisi ndio tuko. Yeah.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Asante.